with a student visa, 2 dependent visas, my son on my back, strapped on my back. All our belongings in 6 suitcases, and off we went to Bowling Green, Ohio. We were not prepared for the adventure in Ohio, especially those Midwest winters. Now, trying to explain to a Kenyan what winter is, we only know 2 seasons, the rain and the dry season. And me, in my wisdom, I was like, let me go to Gikomba and get the heaviest jackets. And so the heaviest jackets I bought for the family, we quickly realized were for a warm fall day in Bowling Green, Ohio. So I remember while we were there, our transportation, Michael was riding a bike. That was his transportation. I will not tell you where we found the bike, but you can fill it in for yourselves. And I had a stroller where I would put my little boy. And when I had to go to the store in the winter, I would dress him with all his clothes. And I mean all of them. All his clothes, the poor boy. And you know, those masks that you wear that only have your eyes open, leave the eyes out, that's what I would dress him in. My son would be so cold that he would not even speak. He couldn't even cry. He had to conserve, the warmth, lest he cries and, some of it escapes. But God is so good. He makes provision for everything we need. We had a friend we were looking for a car, and she decided to give us her car. All we needed was $50 to transfer the title from her to us. But now, as an international student, the budget is very tight. And so, even coming up with that $50 was difficult, but God provided. So I applied to a community college, and I got an admission. And our budget was $800 a month. $800 seems a lot, right? But that was $800 only during the school year. During the summer, you figure it out. Whether you live outside, how you eat, it's up to you. And now, adding a budget to go to school as an international student, 1 credit hour is about $400. And I had to do 12 to remain in status. You know that immigration status? So we had to think, how are we going to pay this? And so the only thing that I could see that I could do was clean people's houses. And that's what I did. I cleaned those toilets, cleaned their bathrooms, swept up dog hair. For Kenyans, that is, cleaned the poop of the cat. And I kept the dream, and I kept saying, the dream, I have to reach it. Our food budget was $30 a month. $480 for rent, and the rest pay the bills. We ate so many Roman noodles, I cannot eat them anymore. But thank God for those noodles. That's what we survived on. Anyway, Michael was doing his studies, and when it came time to graduate, he was ready to graduate, and we thank God that God provided for him a job. But then, unexpectedly, the university decided to do an audit. And as an international student, you're only allowed to work 20 hours a week at minimum wage of about, $6 or something. And he and other graduate students happened to have done 21 hours, 20-point-something hours, 22 hours. Michael was one of them. And so what happened is that he was reported to the immigration, and he lost his status. And the only way to correct it was to cross over the border, and you pray that you come back in. So my son and Michael had to cross over into Canada. When I sat in the apartment, not knowing, will I see him? Will they be arrested? Will he, what do I do? Do I park and go home? What do I do? I was seated in that apartment. This is not something I had imagined. I didn't want to come to America. And now I was being separated from my husband and my child. That just, I don't even have the words to express the emotion of fear and letdown. But like I said, God, in His provision, provided a man called Pastor Malanga. Pastor Malanga agreed to go with Michael to Canada. He paid the way, paid for his hotel, paid for his food. And when Michael and my son were going through the immigration at the border, he went with them for the interview. And he said, "This is my congregant. I know him well. He's a good man." And looking at the visa that the university had given him in the hopes that he would be allowed back into the country, it showed that he was going to do a master's program in 6 months. So the immigration officer looked at him and said, "Young man, which master's program is this that you do in 6 months?" And he said the truth, "This is what happened, and this is what I've been told to do." And the lady looked at him, looked at my son, and stamped the passport and said, "Go on." And let me tell you, oh, the joy of seeing them at my door. It was such a relief. I am so grateful. I don't know how it happened, but God had smiled on us. So Michael was able to get a job in Chicago. We moved to Chicago, and life was good. I continued with my studies, and then 2008 happened. And we were visiting family in Dallas for Christmas. 2008, Christmas Day, he gets a call. "Hey, Mike, your position is no longer available. Please do not return to work." That was the worst news we could have received for Christmas. You see, we had just discovered I was expecting twins. How were we going to live without this one income? Where were we going to stay? How would we feed the children? Because of him losing the job, then we also lost our medical insurance. What were we going to do? Graciously, his parents opened their home to us, and we moved in, trying to figure out how we would make it. What do we do? How do we feed our children? And just thinking what our next step is. And the school I went to, because I was an international student, if you skipped school, they would report you to the immigration police. And it's amazing how God works things that are difficult and makes a way for you through them. By me being pregnant with twins, my doctor was able to give me a permission slip to skip a whole semester and that saved me from being reported to the immigration police. And surprisingly, also, God had provided about that same time, we happened to win this diversity lottery thing. So I could see God's hand was working here. But on the other side, I'm like, this thing, I don't know what is happening. But I held on to my peace. After a year of looking for work, he got a job with the state. And so we're like, okay, things are going to get better. So eventually we moved out. We had our own place. And the job used to take him 4 days away, and he would be back 4 days home. So that left me to be mom and dad for these children. And by this time we had gotten our papers, and he still encouraged me to pursue my nursing dream. So I applied to our accelerated program here in Dallas. But of course, finances were still a big challenge, And I remember there were many days we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, cereal. And we ate because that was God's provision for us at that time. And when I decided to go back to school, of course, there was the bill of daycare. How are we going to pay it? But like I said, for every vision, God provides someone or something to help you along the way. He provided the daycare lady. She agreed to take care of my babies, to feed them, and I wouldn't pay her until I graduated and got my first job. What a blessing. So you see, for every adversity, every hardship, every heartache, as Napoleon Hill says, has equal and greater benefit that it brings. I continued with my schooling, and yes, there were days I only had $5, and I had to think, do I put gas in my car? Do I buy food for the children? What do I do? There were many days I went hungry, but I continued to pursue my dream. And so, this angel of a lady from the daycare took care of my twins for a year, and then my mom was able to come and help me for the following year. And then it came time for me to prepare for graduation. And boy, I tell you, in nursing school, they tell you have to make 75% to graduate. Boy, that 75%, anyone who's been to nursing school, is hard to get. So my final exam came, and I did it, and I scored 74.9. I missed it by 0.1. The disappointment. I cried. I was like 0.1. So you'd rather fail. 74.9, and they wouldn't let me graduate. They said it had to be at 75%. I remember the sacrifice of my mother. 1 whole year she came to live with me. And now I was not graduating. So the only thing was to pull myself together and go back to school. This was a dream I had, so I had to go back for another semester. And this time, boy, I did well. I graduated as valedictorian of my class. Yes. And I'm still a practicing registered nurse. But I'm so thankful that when all is said and done through this journey of achieving my dream to become a registered nurse, God brought people through family, through friends, others I didn't know them. But God provided for me a way to make that dream happen. And so when you see me today, it's because people gave to me a whole lot. They encouraged me. They gave me so much. I'm so grateful. So next time, when you see a tortoise on a tree, you know it did not get there by itself. Thank you.